I welcome every one of you wherever you're joining from. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you, depending on your time zone. Today is the 2nd of May 2024. I am welcoming you to our Enlightenment broadcast. This is our Enlightenment broadcast. This very Enlightenment broadcast focuses on very important ingredients and very important aspects and the merit of the United Nations judgment, which is in favor of Nnamdi Kanu. We have been broadcasting for close to 3 months now, if I'm not mistaken. The very document that is all encompassing. It has all the necessary, very, very credible reports and information that the whole world need when it comes to what Nnamdi Kanu is actually fighting for the people of Biafra, and also that the world also need to understand the role that the government of Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has chosen to play up to today. The very role that they played, which was condemned by the judgment of the United Nations, they have not been able to remedy. They have not been able to show remorse. They have not been able to soft pedal on the very quest to crush, to make sure that the Biafra Restoration Project doesn't see the light of the day, to bring it to a complete and total extinction by holding very strongly to the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra in the person of Nnamdi Kanu for close to 3 years now. This judgment is about 2 years old, heading to 3 years old. The government of Nigeria has refused to pay heed to the very judgment from the United Nations. It is a spite, is an insult, is a highest level of insensitivity on the part of the government of Nigeria. Insensitivity in the sense that they should be in the know to know the consequences, what it portends to this very country, not just for the government and power, because this judgment has been inherited by the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whereas it was received and it was given in the tenure, or should I say, in the administration of General Muhammadu Buhari, the retired general. So whether Buhari obeyed it or not, now Bola Ahmed Tinubu has inherited it. Whether he obeys it or not, this is a judgment that is passed and it is binding on Nigeria. Whatever government that comes into power is going to inherit it. And the more the country lingers in complying with the provisions and the order of the very judgment, the more it becomes obvious that Nigeria is not a democracy. Nigeria is not yet a democracy. Nigeria is not yet a democracy. And everyone should be able to understand that the poor man has no future in Nigeria without God. The poor man has no future in Nigeria. In terms of justice, in terms of fairness and equity, It is when it comes to point like this, when it comes to seeking redress in the court of competent jurisdiction, that you will know that the poor man has no hope, has no future in Nigeria, because it's going to be bought. The justice and the judgment that's supposed to be in the favor of the poor man will be bought over. We have seen it over and over again. How the poor masses, the poor people, those that cannot be able to buy the judge, has suffered a lot of marginalization, a lot of injustices in the court that's supposed to be the hope of the common man. It is quite unfortunate that some people are celebrating injustice. Some people are celebrating this very monster that is moving from tribe to tribe, from state to state, swallowing the common man, the indigenous people, and those that cannot speak for themselves. And no right thinking human being will feel comfortable with this very trend of lawlessness. The domestic laws are not obeyed. The domestic court of Nigeria has given different kind of judgment in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu. Not only Nnamdi Kanu, some people are no longer talking about El Zakzaki, because if you think that this is about Nnamdi Kanu, you are clearly mistaken. You don't understand what is happening. You don't know Nigeria. You are not abreast with what is going on. El Zakzaki has been in the detention. El Zakzaki. Some of you have forgotten it. Of the Shiite movement. El Zakzaki. So for those of you that think it's because of Nnamdi Kanu, oh, Nnamdi Kanu is a troublemaker, Nnamdi Kanu, can you not understand? What about those that you don't know their names, that have been held bound, held down, incarcerated, subjected to different kind of all inhuman and degrading treatments? So if you think it's about Nnamdi Kanu or it's because of Biafra, you are clearly mistaken. Is El Zakzaki asking for an Islamic state? Is he asking for his sect, which is a religious sect that has tie with Iran, to break away from Nigeria? Is that what they're asking for? No. So if you think it's because of Nnamdi Kanu is agitating for Biafra to be free from Nigeria, that is why he's been held. What about El Zakzaki? Is he asking for separation from Nigeria? Is he asking for Nigeria to divide? Is he calling for referendum for the Shiite people? The answer is no. So it is not about individuals. It's about the Republic of Nigeria, how it is structured, how it is put in place by the British. Because the more lawless Nigeria continue to be, the more beneficiary it is to the West. And the indigenous people can never be proud of their country. They can never be able to fulfill their potential, because the opportunity will be stolen away from them through corruption. The focus of this enlightenment broadcast today is what the United Nations has pointed out as the universal declaration of human rights that Nnamdi Kanu is entitled to enjoy. But unfortunately, they have been abused. They have been badly, terribly abused without any consideration of the law or the consequences on the part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this is a verdict. Why is it called a verdict? It's a judgment. It is not subject to further discussion. It has been concluded. It has become a verdict. And this very verdict, it favors Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And by extension, it favors every other indigenous people that are going to come up in the nearest future to speak for their own independence, to seek for their own self-determination. Disposition. disposition. We are now we are now broadcasting from the paragraph 105. I have been broadcasting from the paragraph 1 all the way from the paragraph 1. And now we have stepped to the paragraph 105. And this is a verdict that should be celebrated. This is a verdict, a justice that is well deserved. Maz Nnamdi Kanu truly deserved this very justice. It should be celebrated, whether you like it or not, whether you celebrate it or not. We are celebrating it. We are talking about it. I am so proud talking about it because this very verdict has never been received since after the civil war between Nigeria and Biafra. United Nations has never taken such a definite and distinct position, very, very clear in the favor of the Biafran people. And you must remember what we looked at yesterday, the paragraph 104. Even though the platform didn't allow us to listen to the analysis on the interpretation or the definition of the word prejudice, which is what the United Nations mentioned, and that is the paragraph 104, talking about the present opinion, which is the judgment, and that it concerns the treatment of the rights, the treatment and the right of Mazen and Kanu, and is adopted without prejudice to the statute of Biafra. So we decided to look into the word prejudice, and we saw the definitions, but the platform didn't allow my voice to come out in the analysis. So that is it. We are moving on with the paragraph 105. In the light of the foregoing, the foregoing is in reference to all the paragraphs that I have ever broadcasted from this very document. You must understand that this is a huge sacrifice on my own part. I have been using the church resources and my personal resources to bring the very enlightenment broadcast to the world. None other has dedicated so much time, so much energy, so much painstaking analysis, unbiased analysis without any prejudice to help those who don't understand the existence of this very document to know that this document actually exists and it is in the favor of the Biafran people, to help millions of Biafrans to understand that indeed, since after the Civil War, that this global body has been called upon to speak in the favor of Biafra, which they didn't, that eventually they have done it. And so it is quite commendable, and the Biafran people need to pay strict attention to it, very, very close attention to it, and make use of the very wonderful provision that is given to them. It is opportunity. I've said several times in previous enlightenment broadcast that this very judgment, this very document has paved way, has smoothened the path to a successful referendum of Biafra independence. If Biafrans will be able to rise up in unison, if Biafrans will be able to rise up as one people with one voice, if they should jettison or if they should do away with certain discussions in certain quarters that want to distract them and embrace the very judgment and begin to lay or make strong emphasis on it, this is going to go a very long way to smoothen the path to the Biafra referendum. The enemy doesn't want you to talk about it. The opposition, the oppressor, the aggressor doesn't want you to talk about it. That is why they raise different kind of notion trying to distract you from the authenticity, the reality, and the capability of this very document to help you secure what you're looking for. So they begin to raise different kind of issues, begin to raise different kind of topic, begin to drag your attention to them, to force you to begin to discuss them, looking away from what a wonderful document, so powerful document you have in your hands, the UN judgment. So, this is it. It is a verdict that favors Biafran people. It is a verdict that favors Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. In the light of the foregoing, the working group renders the following opinion. This opinion is a verdict. This very opinion is a verdict, and you need to understand it. You really need to understand it. That is the truth and nothing but the truth. United Nations judgment has set him free. Let him go. Let him go. This is the verdict. This is the verdict in relation to Kenya and Nigeria. This very verdict is binding on the government of Kenya. Kenya as a country, whether it is Uhuru Kenyatta that is the president or not, this very judgment is binding on Kenya as a country. Is binding on Kenya. Is also binding on Nigeria as a country. As I've explained a few minutes back, whether they like it or not, it is binding. Karma is going to bring them around this very route that they are running away from. Karma, justice will definitely force them to take this very path. What is the verdict? The deprivation of liberty of Nwanne Kenyi, Nnamdi Kanu, being in contravention of Articles 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Articles 2, 9, 13, 14, 16, 19, and 26 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights is arbitrary and falls within categories 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, the verdict was passed in consideration of various evidences, in consideration of various weighty evidences, facts, and figures that we have analyzed and broadcasted under category 1, category 2, category 3, and category 4. These categories have multiple paragraphs. As I've said before, this broadcast has lasted for close to 3 months. 3. Every day, I have been broadcasting on this. Every blessed day. If I take you to the top of this document, you will understand how detailed this very document is. It was not concocted. It is not a doctored document. It is not a doctored document. It is not picked somewhere from men or women who don't know their onus in law. This is coming from the United Nations, as you can see. All these paragraphs have been broadcasted on this platform. They are here on Engine Speak. You go to YouTube, Engine Speak, it is there. Go to my Facebook page, Maxwell Nawehe. You are going to find them there. Maxwell Nawehe. My profile on Facebook, the same. My page on Facebook, the same. When you get there, like that very page, follow the page. On X, it is there. So we have been broadcasting from the very top of the document down to where we are today. This is coming from Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, United Nations. United Nations. Opinion adopted by the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention at its 93rd session between the 30th of March to 8th of April 2022. So you can see that this document is 2 years old, going to 3 years. It was adopted. Concerning who? Nnamdi Kanu. Okay, opinion number 25/2022 concerning Mr. Nwanne Kenyi Nnamdi Kanu, Nigeria and Kenya. Okay, so this is paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, we have been broadcasting, as you can see. We have broadcasted all of these paragraphs. I have, using the church resources, using my personal resources. I have never contacted anybody to assist in this very broadcast, and I will never do it until the end of it. I am not a begging pastor. I am not a poor pastor, by the grace of God. The fuel we have been using to power our system, all the expenses, our laptop will break down, we go and fix it, spending money on data, time, energy, and all that we have. I hope you're following. Without asking anything from the IPOB leadership, and I am not interested to receive anything from them. I am not. Never interested. I convened a 3 months fasting and prayer between the 2nd of January 2022 to the 31st of March 2022. Before the end of that fasting and prayer, this judgment came. This verdict of the United Nations came. This is now the paragraph 62. I have broadcasted on it extensively and detailed. I have. We spent so much money for that very spiritual exercise, fasting and prayer for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And our church never held service throughout the 3 consecutive months of this fasting and prayer. There was no church service because the instruction that the Spirit of God gave us was to observe this fasting and prayer indoors without going to business, without holding services, just like what the apostles did in the book of Acts, chapter 12, from verse 1 to 16. That was what they did. When Peter, being the leader of that very generation, was held in prison, there was no church evangelism, there was no morning mass, there was no 6 o'clock mass or 7 o'clock mass, there was no house fellowship, no Bible study, no evangelism, no crusade, no revival meeting. All of them converged in the house of the mother of John Mark. Go and read the Bible. Acts is in the New Testament. That was exactly what we did. That was the instruction that God gave to us, and we obeyed. As we began to fast and pray, calling upon God every day, God worked wonders, which is now made tangible by the very document. That is not the only thing that God did, but the protection and the preservation of the life of Nnamdi Kanu. A lot of other victories that came from different places, the exposition of the evil and the betrayal in the legal team, and in different fronts or at different fronts, God worked wonders through that very spiritual exercise. And the manifestation of what God did is still being seen and witnessed till today. In the course of that very 3 months fasting and prayer, I spent 350,000 naira on fuel alone, on petrol, not on my car, generator. Because throughout that period where we were broadcasting and having the fasting and prayer, the transformer of that very place broke down. The transformer was damaged, and it was never repaired until November 2022. There was no power. There was no light. There was no light. From January 15th, if I'm not mistaken, from January 15th, the transformer broke down. It was never fixed until November. And those of you that could remember, within that time, there was fuel scarcity as well. 2022, there was fuel scarcity and also the hike in the pump price of fuel for 3 months. Some of you understand. In 2022, from January to the month of March, there was fuel scarcity and also hike in pump price of fuel. So there was no light, everything was on generator, and the fuel was scarce and also very, very expensive. That was an attack that came on the 3 months fasting and prayer. And there was a lot of discouragement. A lot of people were of the view if we should postpone the 3 months fasting and prayer. And I said no. So long as this is the instruction that God has given to me, and God has chosen our church to host this very program, not for fundraising, not for launching, not for the church project, not to grow the church, not for people to join us to begin to worship with us in the church, but for this very generation and the leader of the generation. This calls for sacrifice, and if this is the sacrifice we have to make, apart from not going to work, apart from not holding services, apart from that, we are also going to spend so much money with the stress that is involved, combined with the fasting and prayer, without going to church, holding services, staying back in the house. If that is the will of God, so be it. I did not resort to postponing the program, trying to explain, whatever there should be the justifiable reason to do so. We moved on with the program. Only on petrol, 2 generators were running that very year. 2 generators, the big generator, the small generator. I spent 350,000 naira on fuel alone. And up until today, nobody among the IPOB leadership has ever said, "Man of God, thank you for what you did for our nation." But you will hear them gossiping and criticizing men of God. But you will hear so many people gossiping, criticizing men of God. Men of God are not talking about us. Men of God are not praying for us. Men of God are not with Nnamdi Kanu. All these pastors, they're after money. All these pastors, they're after tithe. All these pastors, they are shouting because money is coming in through their members. But they were aware that such a program was being organized by the God's Praise International, the appointed place, led by my very self. They were aware of it. I'm not going to give you details because they called me. They called me on a conference call and they were asking questions about the program, and I explained to them what it's all about. They were aware of it. That this program was not a church program to gather members or to make money or to collect offering or tithe. This is purely for our generation. We made all those sacrifices. And before the end of the 3 months fasting and prayer, this judgment came. This judgment did not come only because of money. This judgment did not come only because Bruce Fein went to the United Nations. This judgment did not come only because there was expenses that were made in funding the process of the very judgment. No. Without the spiritual dimension, it wouldn't be a reality. That is the truth. Because at the point, they even forgot it. They even lost hope that the judgment was going to come. At a point, they lost hope that this judgment was definitely going to come. They lost hope sometime in November 2021. They lost hope. But when the prayer began in January 2022, when the fire was on, when the prayers were on, we were making a lot of sacrifices. By the special grace of God, the judgment came. It's a verdict. And I am so happy that at the end of the day, it favors Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It was not thrown away into the dustbin. It was not delivered out of prejudice or out of racism because Nnamdi Kanu is a black man. Biafra is a black republic that is trying to come out of sub-Saharan Africa. No, it was delivered in the favor of the Biafran people because the spiritual controls the physical. Even the people that try to deceive you, oh, forget about all this church, forget about whatever you believe is going to happen. They themselves have secret places where they go for spiritual empowerment, to receive power, to receive results, in order to command the outcome or the result of whatever they desire. But they will come and deceive you. That I don't believe in all this. I leave all this thing they are talking. Who? Forget about that. It's money. If you have money, you have everything. Who told you? Spiritual controls the physical. That is the verdict. This very verdict is so powerful, and Biafran people should be proud of it. This is it. In relation to Kenya and Nigeria, the deprivation of liberty of Nwanne Kenya Nnamdi Kanu being in contravention of Articles 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Articles 2, 9, 13, 14, 16, 19, 26 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights is arbitrary, is unlawful, is unlawful, is not according to the law, and it falls within categories 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let us count how many laws that they broke. This is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Nigeria, together with Kenya, they broke 16 laws, 16 international laws. 16. 16. On record, though, what about the ones that are not on record? They broke these laws because of one man. They turned the law on its head because of one man. 16 international laws. 16. Now, let us go to the paragraph 106. Paragraph 106. The working group requests the government of Kenya and Nigeria to take the steps necessary to remedy the situation of Mr. Kanu without delay and bring it into conformity with the relevant international norms, including those set out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is the verdict. This is the verdict. That is the verdict. Tomorrow, we must come back to this as we gradually wrap up this very enlightenment broadcast. Wherever you're joining from, thank you very much for watching today. I am Pastor Maxwell Nawihe. And from me from here,